Okay, so Hemistim is another great feature that we've got in our app. You'll find the Hemistim feature in the Hemistim application, but also in the custom version. And in the custom, you can have a specific Hemistim in the background and a moving target in the foreground. And that's really useful, especially if you want to do for example, a left brain strategy, where you've got a saccade going up and to the right and pursuing back down with Hemistim, so these flashing checkers in the background on the right side. So that would be a great left hemisphere exercise. So you're kind of beefing up your eye movement strategy to further stimulate regions of the brain that you want. Now the cool thing about the Hemistim is it's a visual stimulation. If you wanted to just have a cortical effect with little to no brainstem activation, this is the one that you want to do, okay? Because in this case, it's not so much an eye movement strategy, it's more of a visual stimulation. So if I went in here, and a lot of these, by the way, they're in our presets. If you look at presets for Hemistim, we've got some presets in there. Let me just take you through how to change the settings, and then I'll show you some examples of a good left brain, or left parietal, right parietal. If you want to isolate a specific parietal or temporal lobe. The thing is, the parietal lobe perceives vision in the lower field of view. Left parietal, right lower field, right parietal, left lower field. The temporal lobe is the upper field of view. Left temporal, right upper, right temporal, left upper. Okay, so we're going to use that. Now left hemisphere, right hemifield. Right hemisphere, left hemifield. If I wanted to just do bilateral parietal, I would do the lower hemifield. Bilateral temporal, upper hemifield. And that's how it goes. Now, in your packet, you'll have a sheet like this, okay? It's a really good guide to have because this guide, it tells you everything you need to know to create either a left hemispheric or a right hemispheric strategy, how to set the settings, or a left parietal or a parietal versus a temporal strategy, okay? So let's just do a left. We'll do a left hemispheric strategy here. So, from a color standpoint, we want to be more so on the red, orange, yellow end of the spectrum for the left. So if we go to color, I'm going to do red. But we get also be mindful that from a contrast standpoint, for the left brain responds better to higher contrast, okay? So if I do red and orange, it's not a big difference, right? So it's a smaller contrast. But if I do red to white, that's a really big contrast. So I'm going to do red for color number 1. Oh, it's already on white. Okay, and white for number 2, okay? So, so I've got red, I've got white. Let's do size. Okay, so left brain is more into details, smaller. So we want to pick the smallest size. Go all the way down. And speed, the frequency is lower. So in this case, for speed, we're going to, if you go below 10, on this, they're ultra slow. Okay, so for lower speed, I like to use right around, I think 12 is a good number. Faster speed, I'll go 13, 14, 15. So 10 to 12, I think, is good for lower speed. And then in this case, we're going to do, it's for the left brain. So upper right, and we're going to do bottom right. Okay, this is going to be the whole right hemisphere. We have a timer feature here if you want to set a specific amount of time that you want this to be on. Let's just, for demonstration purposes, I think we did this earlier with a different exercise, but let's make it 10 seconds. Okay, so after 10, it'll just stop. And you can also add a center fixation dot if you want. And what this would do is it would make you focus on the center, and that could be helpful too. So, and that's what that would look like. So you'll see that the red and alternating red and white is not as fast as it could be, and that's purposefully so we activate more so the left hemisphere of the brain. So now, if we wanted to do more of a right hemisphere, we could change the settings here. You could also go to saved exercises, and I believe we've got one in there. Hemistim left brain, Hemistim right brain. So let's just press start here. And let's just double check those settings. So we get blue and indigo, okay? So those are closer together, you know, there's less contrast. The size is set as large, but yeah, we want it large. That's right. We want the right brain is more big picture, larger. Speed is at 15. We want it fast. Quadrants are set. Center fixation dots on. Perfect. So if we hit start, that's what that would look like. That's a good right brain exercise, and all these are written in here. If you want to stop an exercise midway, you swipe up like that and you hit done. All right. You might need that feature, and you might need to teach your patients that feature, especially when you do that memory exercise, because a lot of times they can't find where it was, and they go and they press all the quadrants and in the grid, and they can never find it. Like they give up, and so they need to know to swipe up and restart from scratch. Okay, so that's for the left. Now, if we went to let's see if we've got a left parietal, or maybe we've got, yeah, let me see, Hemistim, right brain, Hemistim. Okay, we don't have it in there. That's okay. We'll go ahead and create it. So if I wanted to do, for example, in here it says, if you want to do a Hemistim for the parietal lobe, you'll find that the settings for the parietal lobe are very similar to the settings for the right brain. They're almost identical. It gets a little bit trickier if you have a left parietal, for example. So this is, so the right brain and the parietal lobe, very similar. If you have left parietal, well, you do the parietal settings and you position it on the right so that it's left. But just know that from a hemispheric standpoint, it may not line up perfectly. And that's okay, because your goal is strictly the parietal lobe, and that's totally fine. So in these settings here, the last thing we did was right. So this is good. So these settings are similar. So we're going to keep everything the same, but we're going to change the field of view here. We're going to do lower field, not upper. So we're going to take out the upper. So we're going to hit done and start. Okay, so this is good for a right parietal lobe. Okay, if I want to do left, I would just switch that over to this side. Okay, now if I change those settings and we went back and we wanted to do a temporal lobe stimulation. So the temporal lobe is very similar to the left brain settings. So actually, just to make it a little quicker, I'm going to go in here, and you might want to save these settings in there, but I'm going to go ahead and pick out my left brain settings, and I'm going to go to settings here, and the speed is a little bit lower. Smallest, it's red and white. Okay, so we want to have a, let's see, temporal lobe is a lower contrast. So we're going to make it red and yellow. Okay. We need the smallest. We need a speed that is lower, so we're going to go down to 12. And we're going to want, this is temporal. Let's just say in this case it's going to be a left temporal lobe. Okay, so we want the bottom right quadrant to be on. Oh, thank you, Skylar. Upper quadrant, upper right quadrant. Okay, and here we go. So this would be a good left temporal lobe stimulation. All right. Now, I mentioned earlier, you know, if you wanted to have a movement in there as well, you could you can perform these exercises here in the custom. And in the background, I would simply select Hemistim. And I'm going to go down here. Let's say that in this case, I want it to be a left hemispheric stimulation. So I want the right quadrants to be on. Okay, those quadrants are going to be on. I'm going to turn off the timer. Okay, and then in the foreground, express is good. Okay, I want to have a saccade up and to the right that pursuits back down. This is just a great left hemisphere exercise. So start position is good. So let's make it go this way. I'm going to go up that way. And then initial movement, we'll make that a saccade. And then returning movement will be a pursuit. I picked a crosshair here, color blue. Let's make it a different color. Let's just make it green. But, you know, in this case, I could do a red or something like that. Green is right in the middle. It's pretty neutral. And then, okay, size. We're going to go, so with the left hemisphere, we can go smaller. You know, the left hemisphere likes detail. Crosshair is good. You know, we want to focus on the center. And then quantity of saccades. Let's make it 5. Pursuit speeds is 4. It's on continuous. That's fine for now. Initial pause. I like to give it at least 1 or 2 seconds before it starts moving. And same thing with the return. Time interval, we're going to make it random. And we're going to give it to sound. So we want to really improve our latency. We want to, let's see, use the sound, the bell sound for the velocity. Actually, if we wanted to improve our latency, we could take away the randomness, you know, so that way you can anticipate better. Now, if that wasn't an issue and you want to make it harder, then you can use random. But there we go. So here we go. That should be good. Let's see if that works. So one thing that needs to change, the left hemisphere does better with detail. So I need those squares to be smaller. So it's on large. We need to make it at the smallest. Okay. That should be better. And so then you would track the saccades up and pursuit back down. That's a pretty fast pursuit. I might want to slow that one down a little bit. But that gives you a really robust left brain exercise. I mean, you've got pursuits that are good for the left brain. You've got saccades that are good for the left brain. You're doing a diagonal movement, so you're engaging that right cerebellum, which projects right into the left cortex. And then on the background, you've got a hemistim stimulation. that is appropriate for the left hemisphere, that is a very good exercise. Now, it may be too much for a lot of people, so you've got to consider that too. But as they progress, you want to just keep reinforcing and beefing up their exercises. I had a patient recently who was seeing me for a concussion, and I knew I had my diagnosis right on. I had picked out some good exercises for her that were appropriate based on the findings, and she was getting better and better and better and better. And then right at the end, she's like, I'm feeling so much better, but it's not gone. I'm still getting headaches once in a while. They're light, but they're still there. So she plateaued. And we had to really enhance the exercise plan, where we couldn't just do saccades and pursuits anymore. We had to do metronome. And then I used the Metro Timer app because she had a left midbrain lesion. So initially we want to just gently activate it, but at this point we had to really push it and challenge it. So now we had to add in the metronome feature with the saccades. And then beyond that, I would get the Metro Timer app, and where you have a metronome and a light at the same time, and I would do that from the right side. And I was trying to also time a complex movement with her right arm on beat with the metronome and the light all at the same time. And then we progressed to doing arm and leg movements in counter phase with the metronome and the light at the same time. I mean, we really ramped this up. And that's what finally took care of the problem. And so you just got to be mindful that people get better, and at some point they just need something that's stronger, and they need to be stimulated at a much deeper level.